Hey Gearpacks friends, this is one I've wanted to review for a very long time. It's the MZ-X500 from Casio. This particular keyboard has been of interest to me for some time because it reminds me of Roland's ancient EG101. It was the keyboard that was supposed to have everything. It had a sampler built in, sample pads, a massive range of sounds. That particular keyboard had no sequencing though. And that's where the differences begin with the MZ-X500 and the older style multifunction keyboards. This keyboard just has everything. It has a massive synthesizer, a huge range of effects, all the sample pads there, lots of sequencing, drawbar organs, very powerful speakers, and those are just the things that I can remember off the top of my head. But another big step forward is the touchscreen. This allows for really quick access to all the features. I've literally only had a 2-minute go on this keyboard and already I'm finding that I have no trouble finding whatever I need. Also over here you'll see some quick access buttons to various different categories of sounds. And within each category we get our individual sounds right here. And it won't come across particularly well on camera, but you've got to appreciate just how strong and good these speakers are. They're real studio monitor quality. Let's turn it up slightly and flip over to some of the preset rhythms. And of course we've got accompaniments that go with those rhythms, all controlled in the lower end of the keyboard. And each of the preset rhythms is divided by default into 6 different sections too, so that you can control breaks and different parts of the song. Okay, so you get the idea. Straight out of the box, very controllable preset rhythms and a massive range of styles and categories to get you started. Moving back to sounds, we'll just run through some of the presets again. In this particular case, you'll see under guitars here, and we'll just zoom in on the screen a bit. There are 23 sets of guitar sounds that we can choose from, each set involving 8 sounds. So do the math on that one. There are a lot of sounds purely for guitar. So let's find something interesting. Wire distortion, this could be good. Definitely a purpose-built sound, that one, but you get an idea of the depth and realism that this keyboard's offering. Let's move over to synth, where it gets really interesting. 17 pages worth of synth sounds. Let's try a 5th lead, that's always interesting. The pads here will automatically set themselves up to give you a bit of a sample of how these sounds can be utilised. They're pressure-sensitive pads too. And you also get some rhythms to try out with it as well. So straight away, just by selecting a sound, you've got the option of making some pretty vibrant music. Other functions of the pad include sequencing options, as well as synchronizing with live performance, and also sampling, very important. If we go into sampling, obviously you can record your own, but it comes preset with 3 pages of samples as well. For example, here's some snare drums. So there's a wealth of samples that you can try out straight from the get-go. Sound effects. In the organ category here, you'll see that you have the option to select a drawbar organ, and the lights come on over here. This is a really fascinating part of the keyboard. Select any one from the 16 pages of organ sounds that you've got to choose from, and the drawbars right here come alive. And I can tell you now that whatever you're hearing on your computer right now is not matching what's coming out of these speakers, because we've got all kinds of panning, spatial sound sort of effects. The phaser and the flanger are all working together, and there is so much to explore just in this one particular section of the keyboard. Not only that, there are a lot of convenient features that have been probably looked at and updated a little bit by Casio. So we've got 8 patches here within, I think it's 10 banks that you can store individual patches that you've made up yourself. You can save everything in each of these patches. So whole performances, whole song stylings and everything can all be set up as you go through your performance nice and logically. And this over here is great too. This used to involve a lot of menu exploring on Casio keyboards and many other brands. But here we've got some very quick MIDI transport controls, but also this brilliant transposing, one touch up and down. And octaves up and down. And just listen to the range of that keyboard. Accessing these two features is something that I get asked a lot about on my channel, and it's really great to see them available in such a convenient way. But of course, one burning question is, how does it perform as a synthesizer? Well, a quick run through the presets has told me that it's performing really, really well. This particular patch sounds really good, nice and loud, and puts the speakers through its paces. So even as a preset, that's a sound that's going to satisfy people with some pretty hefty synthesizer requirements. And I can tell you now, the speakers are really pumping out that throbbing, bassy synth sound. If we go over to menu, you'll see that a whole range of things associated with this sound come up. There are 2 pages on the main menu, and I'll get into all that in a moment, but right now I wanted to show you the effects. So this is very simply laid out as well. 2 pages of effects, and if you want to edit something, you just press enter next to the one that you want. In this case, let's choose delay, and here are all our delay options. So we can change this amount, for example, just by going to the value dial here. So if I wanted to increase the time of delay, and increase the feedback a bit. I don't know how well that's coming through on the camera, but obviously we're getting a lot more tail now because we've increased the feedback value. Back on this main menu again, and I won't go through all of these options in great detail, but obviously it starts with tone settings, which is a sensible default for any keyboard. Rhythm patterns naturally comes next. We've got the effects that we just looked at, MIDI options and audio recording options for your audio recording and sampling at the bottom there. Various preset templates, system settings, controllers, so if you want to assign cutoff and resonance and things like that to the various different dials, you can do that all there. Mixing for your final recordings. We've got an arpeggiator down here too, and various other utility controls. Arpeggiator is always exciting, so we're going to go into that one. In the arpeggiator menu, the on-off switch for the arpeggiator is just this little symbol up here. And of course, like with everything else on the MZ-X500, there's heaps to choose from. 10 pages, so that's a total of 80 arpeggiators to choose from. Let's try this one. Probably a bit too much distortion in this particular sound for that one. There's also space for another 80 arpeggios of your own making. They can be edited by going back to the main arpeggiator screen and pressing edit. Again, I won't go into too much depth, but you can see here how you can actually compose your own arpeggiator and go ahead and use that one. So step edit is in the old school MIDI list style. So you can go through and set the velocity and the note and the control of your arpeggiator in a 16-beat loop. So I'd invite you just to take a moment to consider the depth that that gives you when you consider all the sounds you've got to choose from, the effects, the synthesis, the drawbar organ, then you've got the arpeggiator on top of that. This is a virtually limitless synthesizer, and from what I've heard in this very, very short demo, the sound potential is pretty impressive too. A long way ahead of the XWPD series of about 5 years ago from Casio. Personally, I found those ones a little bit lackluster, but this one is just completely eclipsing them. And so, just to sum up guys, I have to say I am really excited about this. Specifications indicate that this is a true all-in-one system. There is really nothing that you could want for here. All the sampling, multi-track recording, all the synthesis, sounds, rhythms, everything you need is here. So in theory, you could do everything you want musically on this one machine. So I think there's not much else left to do guys except to press these 2 buttons here and give you the official demo.